Welcome to Daily Grace. We are so glad you've joined us today. This is the best part of my week, when I get to rummage around in a friend's life. And so the friend I have with us today is Clint Rouse. Clint, thanks for coming.
Happy to be here, Jason. Can't go back now, so whatever comes out.
That's exactly right. This is it. This is what we got. So you are with, you work with Mary.
Yep.
With Young Life. You minister here in Greene and Lenoir counties with Young Life, and also you're part of Grace. How long have you lived here in Lenoir County?
7 years. We moved in July of 2013.
Oh, so we've just passed 7 years. Wow. That is unbelievable. And you just moved houses this summer.
We moved houses. We
spring.
bought a house this past summer and moved in January. 4 houses down.
4 houses down.
We liked where we lived. We needed a little bit bigger house, but we looked at 3 options, and all of them were within 100 yards of where we currently lived, and we chose option 3.
That is so funny. That is so funny. Well, we love, and we live in the same neighborhood, and it is very fun for us to be out on a walk in the evening after dinner and see you and the kids and 2 dogs, and I don't know who's walking who, but Charlie, Lucy, Jack, Mom, Dad, Snoopy, and Reynolds.
The neighborhood preschool coming through.
The neighborhood preschool coming through. That, I got to tell you, one of the, you have to find the good in everything. And the COVID and the lockdown and March onwards, one of the things our family has done is almost every dinner, after dinner, we take a walk. And even the boys are like, well, it's time for the walk. Let's get the dog out there. I mean, they do it for the dog, I guess. But it's really kind of fun. And we do get to see all sorts of friends.
And you've seen so many more people. I mean, especially the spring.
Yeah.
People were
July
everywhere.
and August are a
Walking
little
was
harder.
great.
No, it's true though. April, May, June, you get to talk to them across the street because you don't want to get close.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, let's talk family. Then we're going to talk ministry, and then we'll talk parenting and stuff like that. Your family. First of all, where did you meet Mary? Where did you guys meet?
So really, when I was in high school, went to Young Life camp. And the entertainment involved a video. And the video involved a pretty high school girl.
Really?
And Mary was the pretty high school girl. And so I met Mary via video camera then. And then 2 years later, went to college at NC State, met her in person. And it took us 3 years of being friends. And then we started dating, and one night we're hanging out. And we made the connection that she was the girl from that video when I was at camp.
You're kidding.
That I crushed on in high school. And
so wait a minute, was she in college when you were in high school?
she's a year older. So Mary would have been in that video. Mary was a senior in high school. I was a junior in high school, and just kind of coincidentally. So.
Isn't that amazing? But you didn't really meet in high school, but you met at college.
Met in college. My freshman year at State.
Yep.
We met through Young Life. I mean, technically, the first time we met was at a church, Hope Community Church in Raleigh.
Yeah, it's a great church.
And and then we got to be Young Life leaders together at the same high school, at Leesville Road High School. Built a great friendship for several years.
Yep.
And then after Mary graduated, we started dating. Through college, we both dated each other's roommates, and so it was a little messy in the beginning,
but you won. You each won.
Absolutely.
I would think. Boy, we just married off Hannah Vermillion to Brandon Jones, and they met through Young Life at college.
That's right.
Through serving in Young Life in college. What a great place to meet someone. It's the first thing you tell a kid when they go to college. Make sure you get in with good friends, and the best place to find them is in a campus ministry.
It's so true.
And that's where you want to be, or in church. But
there's college with campus ministry might be the best. I mean, it's such an incredible opportunity for community that you don't get to experience really in high school, and hard to experience it like that as adults. I mean, it's a very unique.
It is.
Couple of years, and campus ministry meet a real need. So.
Yep, that's true. So y'all married, and then, so you've lived here 7 years. How long have you been married?
9.
9 years.
9 years. So Memorial Day weekend of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're at 9 years. We'll do 10 next year.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We're 20 next year.
Well, you know.
So there we go. And then, at least I think we are. If we're not, I'm in big trouble.
Do some counting.
No, we are. I guarantee you. And you came here without kids, and now you have 3.
This is true, but to backtrack real quick, my dad gave my mom a trip to Hawaii for their 25th anniversary. You got to blow it out for 25.
You have to for 25.
And mistakenly, he was 2 years early, and they did it for their 23rd.
When did your mom tell them? Like while they were in Hawaii?
No, well before that. This is good.
She should have waited till the beach in Waikiki and said, "No, honey, you're going to do something again in 2 years."
Yep. So that was funny.
That is so funny. I love that. That gives hope to all the rest of us.
That's it. Moved here with no kids. We are so thankful that we have been able to. I mean, we wanted to move east of Raleigh.
Because you're from Goldsboro.
That's right. And we wanted to move and settle in for a year of no kids, and we got to live and experience that. And as we said, be able to say yes to things along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hoped that we could have kids, and we could, and we were able to just kind of start having them then, which was really just been great. And so now we've got Lucy's 5, Charlie's 3, and Jack's 1.
Wow. And Lucy and Charlie are in preschool.
That's right, at Westminster this year, and we're loving that. We're getting to walk to school.
Mm-hmm.
And we're celebrating that as of now, and we're hopeful that everybody stays safe, and we're thankful for their staff of the protocols they've got. They're going to school, and they're in person, and they get to be with their peers, and helps them grow.
Helps them grow. We loved the years we spent at Westminster Preschool. It's a great school, and it's so much fun. Lucy is she's 5, but she's kind of like almost a high schooler.
Very much so. And she knows it too.
I don't have daughters, so.
She is. She definitely is, and she's wide open.
Yeah. And then Charlie and Jack, I cannot wait to see these kids all grow. Okay, tell us a little bit about Young Life. So if someone's tuning in right now and really is not that familiar with Young Life, although right here in Eastern North Carolina, in Lenore and Greene, we've kind of been going for, even before you, for a couple of years with some part-time staff and some super good volunteers, so maybe 10, 12 years. But how do you describe Young Life? So again, pre-COVID, because then we'll talk about that, but what is Young Life, and how is God using it?
I try to make sure, and it depends whether I'm talking to a high school kid asking for the first time, or a pastor, or a parent, but we don't want to be an organization. We want to be a group of people on a mission to reach lost high school age students in our county. And so that group of people consists of staff like us, and we have a committee who volunteers behind the scenes, and then we have these volunteer leaders who are hands-on mentoring and working with kids, and then we've got churches that partner and support and send, and we've got administration that welcomes us and looks for ways to include us in the DNA of the school. And so it's this group of people that all come together trying to offer kids full life in Christ. We work hard to make sure that what they experience at Young Life feels like the message that we're proclaiming, which is that Christ offers abundant life to the full and with purpose in the way that it was designed to be. We hope that when you come, you get this taste of the way it's supposed to be, because the world that we live in and that they go to school in is not the way it was supposed to be. So Young Life would be a group of people.
A group of people. I like that.
On mission to reach lost, disinterested high school kids. Is how I would answer.
So two things I love about that explanation is, number one, that distinction between an organization versus a group of people, and I like that. Even Grace Fellowship, we don't care so much about, well, we want Grace Fellowship to be big or better or whatever. I mean, we want Jesus to be magnified, but we're a group of people on mission. I love that. And of course, there has to be a bit of an organizational structure, or else it's just, so Young Life is there, Grace is there, but it's really what God is doing in and through each of us and as we band together. I love that. And I've never pieced that together in the way I've heard you describe Young Life. And I've been involved in Young Life before. Like, I like that. And it's exactly true. It's reflective of who they are. I just have never made that connection. The second thing I love is, well, now I forgot it. But I like the first one.
I'm glad you like the first one. And
No, I
that's
really do. It'll
how,
come later.
you know, with that group of people thing, that's how it did exist before we got here. You know, I mean, it
Right.
was 2004
Right.
when a group of people, not Young Life, but a group of people in Greene County said, we want to reach kids, and they started doing it.
They started doing it.
And that was it.
And I remember that when Barbara Patty and Hope Schaefer
Yeah.
came and talked and said, hey, we are praying about this. We want to move forward with this. And does Grace want to be involved? And I remember Grace wanted to be involved right at the beginning. And we've been part of that early group of churches that adopted it and group of Christians in this area. It's so exciting.
Love it.
So exciting. Now, and then not only a group of people seeking to, I remember what the other one was, that the experience when kids are with Young Life folks at club or campaigners or camp, but that the experience would be reflective of the good news of the gospel.
Yeah.
And I love that because, again, when, just to put it in church terms, when someone comes to church and it's all down and don't do this and you know, if your hemline is this long or not, you know, and it's all these other rules that aren't Jesus. Now Jesus has high standards, but oftentimes we focus on things that aren't the gospel to the detriment of relationship and a culture of the fellowship is hard.
Yeah.
And it also gets messy, which, you know, sometimes it's easier to slot people in and keep them there, put seatbelts on them all. But sometimes you end up focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah.
It is hard. I mean, standards and grace. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, and especially,
Which is a little different from a church to an outreach organization / group of people. How do you navigate that?
You know, somebody said this one time, and I've said it at Grace before, but all of us, you and me included, we're somewhere on the spectrum, on this line, this continuum line from no God, N-O God, like I have no God in my life, to no God, K-N-O-W God. And as far as standards and grace, I don't know. And I don't know that the Bible even the disciples, they were on there, and you don't know exactly when like salvation happens. You don't know when you go from eternal death to eternal life. I mean,
like we looking on
right.
someone.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
God knows.
God knows.
And so as far as holding the standards and the grace, it gets tricky. But what I can do, and so what I do with it, is I'm just trying to herd the group in the direction from no God to know God. And if I'm walking that direction and taking you that direction and you're going that direction, the standards and grace seem to kind of can work themselves out. So.
Feels like when you focus on the standards, you miss the grace.
Yeah.
Which is not to say you don't ever focus on the standards, but when you focus on Jesus,
Yeah.
you get the standards and the grace.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you're doing.
For sure.
It's kind of like what Mary said this morning when we were talking, Susan and Mary and you and me this morning, and she said, you know, Pastor Shepard, Kayam Shepard, when he was here a couple weeks ago, talking about imitate me as I imitate Christ. And that became the foundation of her Bible study with a few seniors at North Lenore this week.
That's right.
She just led them into that verse. Well, what does it mean to, and some of the girls are saying, I've never even thought about who I'm imitating.
Yeah.
And that's, man, you focus on Jesus and then all of a sudden, K-N-O-W, you're moving along that continuum.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. So in COVID, before COVID, there's club, which is big group of people having a lot of fun, and then camps you get to take them to, and then you're doing these Bible studies, campaigners, I think you all call them. It's changed with COVID. As you're looking to this semester moving forward, what does your semester look like?
We're very excited about this semester. You know, the spring, we just kind of had to ride it out with everybody else. I mean, we went through a shutdown, and we went through a no face-to-face with anyone. Everything was virtual. And then now, of course, with guidelines, I mean, effective tomorrow, we're within the rules to
Phase
be
2.5.
2.5, that we can be 25 people indoors, 50 people outdoors. And so there's a lot we can do with that. And so, like you said, club, campaigners, camp, we're reminded these are tools that we've always used to reach lost kids with the gospel. I told you that's why we exist.
Right.
And a friend of mine actually said at the beginning of COVID, he said, I'm being challenged that I think I let the tools take over the workshop. And you know, the workshop exists to build things. And sometimes you get, I mean, our garage, I literally spent 11 hours last week organizing our garage because I'd let the tools take over the workshop. And he said he's been challenged of, like, I realized, like, if the purpose of the workshop is to build things, you let the tools take over, then you can't even really build them as effectively anyway.
That's good.
And in ministry, if the purpose of Young Life is to reach lost kids, and we've got these tools that are great to use to reach them, but sometimes they take over the workshop and club becomes the end instead of the means.
The goal instead of the channel.
The goal is not to have a lot of kids in club. The goal is to introduce lost kids to Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so now we've been encouraged, and that's been probably my biggest takeaway from COVID, is a reminder of the call that God placed on my life and our life as a local ministry to go and reach lost kids. And not compromise that in COVID. Don't all of a sudden, just for the sake of remaining relevant, you just do something, anything, offer whatever we can possibly. No, figure out a way to live into that calling now. And so what we're able to do now is a lot of, the one thing we didn't mention yet is that most of what Young Life leaders do is show up on their turf. Go to the kids. Yeah. Which, of course, is a big no-no right now.
Because sports can't even have moms there and dads.
No, I mean, we spend 20 hours or so in the lunchroom and at a soccer game and at a football practice and at a cheerleading competition, wherever it may be, wherever kids are. And we're not safely able to be at any of those places right now. So what we're doing this fall is trying to create safe spaces for kids to be together that we can be there too. Whether that be this afternoon, hanging out in the parking lot at cookout. I mean, that's something kids like to do.
Right.
Sometimes, and there's safe ways to do that, and we're allowed to do that. And so let's organize that. And let's create.
You know it's going to be 108 today.
It'll be 108. But that's a good day for a milkshake.
It's a great day for a milkshake. So you're going to them, but it's not what it used to look like at the cafeteria at the sports.
Yeah.
You're saying
we've kind of got to create a place for us to go to them.
It's great.
Which is the challenge. And I say that's what we're doing. We'll see who comes today. I mean, we're trying, and we're following Jesus in it.
Yep.
But we're more confident than ever that what we need to do is reach lost kids, and walk with the kids we know and love, like you said with Mary's Bible study, in a really appropriate way. And to do that, we've got to create some spaces that they can show up to, so that we can be there with them.
Yep.
And I think parents want it.
They do.
Kids want it.
Yep.
School systems want it. We want it. So, and what we talk about with our leaders, is we want to but we're all in this like the school systems are dying and bending over backwards for kids, and we don't want to come in and offer something that's counterproductive to their measures. So we want to be part of the solution of keeping kids healthy, getting kids either back on campus or keeping them on campus. We're certainly not, for the sake of building our thing, trying to be counterproductive in those measures. But they want kids to have these extracurriculars and development opportunities and social opportunities and growth opportunities. And so,
that's good.
So we're doing a lot of gender and grade specific.
Yeah, smaller groups.
Hangouts.
Instead of 100 people at a club, you're doing, or however many. But that is, I love that creativity. I love the tools. Are tools, but don't let them take over the workshop. So helpful. I think a lot of churches could learn from that. Speaking of churches, nice segue. You are super involved at Grace, and I think one of the things that we'll call it a parachurch, like a ministry that is coming alongside churches and isn't a ministry of one church. So that's what Young Life is. Coming alongside many churches. Sometimes there can be a little bit of a competition feel between the local church and these parachurch groups, campus ministries, so on and so forth. With you, I feel exactly the opposite. I see in you, and you model it, you and Mary, and then with the others in leadership, is we really are hand in hand.
Yeah.
And even your focus again and again on reaching the lost, like you're not trying to be another youth group. You're trying to reach the lost that maybe haven't had a chance to come to church. So you're bringing church to them with the hope later of a later partnership. Why are you so high on the church? Are we blowing it? I mean, we're obviously not. The way you're talking about it is there's good, but so often campus ministers and so forth can feel like, well, the church ain't doing it, so or not individual ministers, but generally the church ain't doing it, so we got to get out there. But actually, you just come at a totally different posture. What is it about your experiences here and before here that makes you so encouraging towards what God's doing in the local church?
Yeah, I mean, we do love the church. Yeah. The church as a whole, I mean, the bride of Christ. I mean, it's hard to love Christ without loving his bride. And you can't, if you don't, somebody that's going to hate my bride, I mean, we're not going to be friends.
Yeah. That's right.
So that goes hand in hand there. And from our own spiritual walk, I mean, it's drawn us to the church, and we need the church. And we grow because of the church, and so we've seen it in our need, and then as far as other things, I mean, Young Life, we love Young Life. We're biased towards Young Life. Other ministries the same way. Great. In general, most of them have a time where you sort of age out. In Young Life, I mean, you go to college, if you go to college, and there'll be Young Life College at most places now. And certainly if we've got adults in Lenore and Greene County that are still involved. But as far as being a consumer, a recipient of the program, I mean, that kind of stops at the end of college max with Young Life. So there'll be a day where you're a Young Life alumni. Right. And there will never be a day where you're a church alumni.
That's great.
Because the church will never, or should
never. Yeah, you never age out.
Age out.
Yeah.
And so as far as trying to plug kids in, if I got a kid that I want, a kid that comes to know the Lord, and I need them to stay in the faith, I mean, to stay with Christ, if their only place to be fed is in Young Life, then what happens, even when they do go to after high school, I mean, what if the handoff is clunky and they just don't get connected to the next level? Well, then, I mean, percentage-wise, more times than not, they probably fall off. But if they've gotten plugged in with a church that's not going anywhere, then that's the lifetime. And so we don't brag. Nobody brag. We don't spend a lot of time in our ministry focusing on like how many kids did we reach this year at this camp. Right. That's not really a metric that we're spending much focus on. What we want to see is, and we've been here, like I said, with volunteers for 16 years now.
That's great.
And what you're starting to see and what we want to see and where we can measure the fruit is adults walking with Jesus that say, man, the start of this for me was with Young Life. That's a lifelong thing, not I went to camp and had a great experience in it, And so what we want to see, and the key piece of that is plugging them into something that's going to be there after Young Life.
After Young Life. That's so good.
We've got a lot of great churches in Lenore and Greene County. We're thankful for that.
Yes.
Thankful for the partnership because it does, have to go both ways. And so
it does.
I'm glad you think we have a good posture. And we're so grateful for Grace's posture. And I think one thing I'm appreciative from a lot of churches around here is, we reach out to youth age kids. But if you're trying to figure out what bucket we fit in at your church and you want to put it in the youth category, then it feels like a competition because we're all talking about the same kids. And then it feels like we're just much more appropriately placed in the missions category.
Right.
We're not in Young Life is, but we aren't. We're not overseas. We're not doing missions to a new place per se, but we are missionaries in our county, at our high schools. And when a 32-year-old walks in to the high school lunchroom, I mean, I might as well speak a different language.
Yeah, it's true.
And I definitely look different. And I definitely don't understand things.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we're missionaries in our school. And so I think the church, we appreciate that the local feel for us is as a missions group more than a youth group, because that fits better.
And personally, is that part of why here at Grace, as you being a follower of Jesus at Grace, you're involved in the local church, and one of the ways is on our mission team.
Yeah.
You're involved on the mission team. Like, you love that.
Love it.
And how come? What is it there that draws you so much? I mean, you bring so much energy.
Well, again, I mean, I kind of fell into being a Young Life kid. My sister was older and she drove and she took me.
Right.
And then I kind of fell into being a Young Life volunteer. My sister was older. She drove. She took me. But then in coming on staff, I mean, what I loved and love is the missions, is the outreach. I mean, just the way my heart is wired and the way the Bible talks about following Jesus. There's a big emphasis on missions. And so, yeah, I love being a part of. So again, for me, like in my drawing to staff initially, it wasn't the youth outreach, it was the missions outreach.
Yeah.
And then, for me as being, where do I want to plug in at a church? Like, how can I be a part? I'm thinking, man, how do I help our church go on a mission to these places? Starting with our next door neighbor.
Yep.
And all the way over the ocean.
Across the world. All right, last thing. You're a dad. We've already talked about Lucy, Charlie, and Jack. What's the best part of being a dad?
Man, best part of being a dad. The best part of being a dad is that Mary and I, as a married couple, have just never had a more unifying. I mean, it started with the dog. That was unifying first, but having kids on a whole new level, that it's our thing. We do together. We're building this. Neither one of us has any more. I mean, it's 50, or 100, depending on how you. But I mean, it's us together. And so the best part of being a dad is doing it with Mary or my spouse.
What's the best parenting advice you've ever received?
Man, gosh, yeah, 80% of it's just showing up. I mean, I love that. Charlie Patton's an old Young Life guy, and again, I mentioned contact work for us. We talk about with kids and missions and the church. I mean, the way Jesus lived was, I mean, he showed up and he went to be with the people. And so Charlie says, look, man, you got to do contact work to your kids. What you do with all this, earning the right to be heard and building the relationship and earning their trust and speaking truth in the right time. And that sounds like what you want to do with your kids too, more than any other kid out there. And I think what I've learned and seen from some of the elders here is that our kids learn from watching us more than from what we say. And so, like, being involved in a house church, they watch us choose to pay a babysitter, to give up a night of our week to go be in community and fellowship with other believers. And that will have more of an impact on them choosing to do those things in their adult life than us telling them every Wednesday night how important community is and that they need to prioritize it. On one hand, on house church, on one hand, feels like it's a night away from our children, and that's we feel torn in that. On the other, I mean, they watch us choose spiritual health and Christian community. And that's what I want. That's what we want for our kids. And so for them to watch what we model.
Which is so great, because 80% of parenting is showing up is true, and sometimes showing up is showing them what really matters. And I think sometimes I, as a parent, or all of us as parents, can kind of be kid focused and help, and it turns out the kid thinks everything revolves around them because mom and dad don't do anything except what is with them, which isn't ultimately for their benefit, but for them also to see you going out to house church and getting in the car on a Sunday morning, get into church, like that makes the difference in their lives over the long term. Not 1 week, but over the long term.
It really does.
That's great.
There's a guy, Evan Griffin, who's a professor at University of Cincinnati, I think. Does a lot of stuff with the Navigators.
Mm-hmm.
And he said discipleship, which is applicable in ministry, it's applicable in church, it's applicable with our children, our kids. His word was, you need to experience the good news for yourself. You need to be the good news, and then you get to share the good news.
It's good.
So I think like with our kids, and also our ministry model, and what Grace does so well, we spend a lot of time in that be the good news, which you can't do if you didn't experience it.
Right.
If you aren't experiencing it daily and regularly for yourself, and then you get to just be it, live it out, model it, and in that the sharing will flow. And so the desires we have for our kids, our children, as parents, I think we're reminded to spend to camp out in that be the good news, so they don't just feel like we're throwing that share the good news at them.
Because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
And when we experience it once and always, and then be it, that's the heart.
That's it.
And then, man. Well, Clint, I feel like we should have you back 3 more times because I feel like there's so much more to cover. But let's stop right here, and maybe we'll press pause and bring you back in 6 months or something. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're busy and you're getting all sorts of stuff set up, but we always love to talk to you. So thank you for coming in today.
It's fun to be here.
And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.